where you were.
I tried to make myself look presentable for the video.
So we're only pretty much focused on puppet anyway. So
I good. Yes, I love it.
you get your chance later. You can do all your makeup and stuff later.
20 kilometers from the capital, Santiago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And is that where your parents both, did you grow up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
my mother took me to the school, and she went in one side and started ready to make something for us.
Oh, yeah.
And the teacher told me what is doing,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, yeah. What did she make? Just clothes or?
Yeah, yeah.
His mom and dad died when dad was young.
10, I think he said the last time.
Yeah, he was about 10. And so one of his older brother used to look after everybody and send them to school and all this. Until they went to the army. But they used to live not far from where my grandmother lived. So yeah, and his father used to drink a lot. He died with a glass in the mouth. Okay. Yeah, but my grandmother died long time before this. Yeah, he had a house and he got married after my grandfather got married with another woman, and yeah, we didn't see much of them.
No.
But we used to see the brothers and sister. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So the brothers and sisters were all very close.
Yeah, they were very close in those years.
They seem close.
Yeah. And to us, my dad and then his brother, we had to go away from Chile and we moved to, as refugees. Yeah.
His sister, he only had one sister, our favourite auntie. She was our favourite, you know, and I can't even remember her name now. It'll come to me. But yeah, I remember him talking a lot about his sister, and then she talked about how Dad, when his father died or his parents died, he sort of took over the household, and he wasn't the oldest. I think he was the third oldest, I think. And he talked about how he looked after everyone, and he got a job at paper mill quite young.
Yeah.
En
español.
Industria de papelera, que hacía diferentes tipos de papeles y cartón.
In the paper mill he worked.
Oh, yeah.
My father, my brother,
Yeah.
the other brother working too,
Yeah.
and I work in the
The
company.
paper mill.
Looking for another company in Concepción. Y he said, do this, do that, do that.
Yeah, yeah. And what sort of paper?
Different kind of paper. Paper for the diarios,
Oh, yeah.
for the toilet.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
Anything.
different things.
Yeah.
It's 10 machines in the factory.
Yeah.
And working 1,300 people in
Wow.
the factory.
Wow.
It's a big factory.
Yeah, yeah.
He has 10 machines,
Yeah, yeah.
diferentes clases de machines.
Yeah.
Cuando put the new factory in Concepción,
Yeah.
taking me to Concepción, y con 10 people more.
Yeah.
When mom and dad got married, we went to Concepcion. So myself and my older sister were born in there. And then mom was pregnant with Sandra, and we went to Santiago to have her in Santiago. Don't know why, but yeah, and that's how. But we were not living in Santiago when Sandra was born. We just went to, I don't know what for.
Well, you went there.
No, it was too late.
Yeah.
Y work in Concepción, y allí in one house from the company,
Oh, okay.
two floor.
Yeah.
In 1973, it's a terremoto,
Mm.
big earthquake,
Yeah, yeah,
and Sandra and Choli is there,
yeah.
and run away. I live outside the house for 3 days
Yeah,
because move out every 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was in the army for 14 months.
You're enlisted in the army. As soon as you turn
18.
18, you get called and it comes
Yeah.
out on the newspapers, your name and everything.
And those years was just men. Now it's woman and men.
The first time he got there, I remember him telling me that story when he first got there, and they got him on a line, all these new men with him, and he was a skinny fella, and they were asking, has anybody, like they said, anybody got a license? And he went, yep, and they gave him a wheelbarrow. That's what you're going to be doing. You know, and they were asking all these questions, and everybody was getting all these shit jobs. You know, I remember that story. And he always talked about how he learned discipline, you know, to make his bed, to keep his tidy and all that. That's what he learned, to cook. He always used to tell me that sort of shit.
Because you went in really young, eh?
Yeah, I think he went in pretty young.
We, for drive a truck
Yeah,
in the government.
yeah,
And after this, I charge of the army.
yeah.
All the army is inside.
Mm.
So when the people going for do something, asking me for rifle, for pistol or whatever.
Oh, okay. So you had to give out the weapons or
Yeah.
and all that.
14 months it said that. And when I finished there, I married. Saturday I married, and Tuesday somebody from the factory going to my place and say, needed you in the office.
Mm.
I'm going to the office and say, you going to Concepcion.
Oh. Just after you got married.
So I'm going alone,
Yeah.
and Raquel está en Ponte Alto.
Yeah,
For 3 months estoy alone en Concepción.
yeah.
Y ahí Raquel is coming.
The memories that I've got is from Concepcion, where I was born, where my father used to work. We had a house in there and belonged to the company. I remember when I was little, and the neighbor used to call me because it was 2 houses together, and the neighbor next door used to always call me, but she used to say Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. So I used to go outside, yeah, and that's where my nickname came, Charlie, yeah.
¿Cómo conociste a mi mamá? Yeah, he said he met Mum when she was young, and then he was in the army. And when he came back, he saw Mum again, and then they decided to go out and get married. And
But
that
before
was
this,
it.
did he tell you about before?
No, he told me about the army days, but the rest of it. And they were
Yeah, before this, my mom and my mom and his mom and dad, they used to live in one part of Chile, Santiago, no, Puente Alto. They had an old house. And my father, they used to live not far from there. And mom and my friend, they used to go and throw stones to them and try to hit them. And they used to call them names. So that's how they met. And then, there used to be just one town of one part of the town, and the other one left in here. And my mother's was more poor than my father. My father was more, the family was more medium class. My mom was always a little bit less. And that's how they met. And then my father went to the army. And when he came back, they got together.
The brother of Raquel working together with me.
Ah,
I'm going with him to house where I live Raquel con la family.
Mm.
And there, estar
So dating. And how long did you date before you got married? How long till you got married?
¿cuánto tiempo estuvo casado?
No, ¿cuánto tiempo se conocieron y pololearon primero antes de que te casaras?
For 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Wow, it's very short.
No máquina around there. Yeah.
When married,
Mm.
tell to my father,
Yeah.
I am married. When my father said, okay, you married, you go away.
Oh, no. Did you have a good relationship with her family?
Yeah.
My father used to go in and see her, and my grandmother used to have long hair, so she used to put it up in here. And my father used to go and move it like this. She used to tell him off, and he was
play
one of the
games, yeah.
favourite. Yeah.
I mean, Mum grew up in a real hard family. They were hard to each other. They were nasty to each other, really, because some of the beatings that Mum used to get from her brothers, they were, you know. But even though, yeah, Mum was just anything they needed, she was always there. And with my grandmother, my grandfather, especially, yeah. She always went back to them, and I think that a lot of the reasons that we moved from Concepcion to Santiago too was for there to sort of be around my grandmother as well.
Nos trataban súper bien.
Yeah.
Y íbamos a la abuelita y ella nos hacía comida y nos mantenía ahí todo el día.
Yeah.
Y andábamos correteando las gallinas y los patos.
Yeah. He said, yeah, they had. He had a good relationship with his in-laws.
Mm.
They loved him a lot and
Yeah.
appreciated him a lot. And then he spent a lot of time there in the house, and Abuela, my grandmother, would cook meals for him especially, and then he would help with the chickens and the ducks and everything, and so he spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
I was the first.
Yeah.
I was the second,
Yep.
Leo, third, Pat, fourth, Romina was the last.
You all think that it's 5 of us, but it's actually more of us. There's 3 girls first, then 3 boys, and then in between those there's, if I remember right, there's 2 miscarriages, and then there's Romina.
I had another sister,
Yeah.
older than me, and then it's me.
Passed, she passed away when she was 6 months old, I think, and it was through. I think she died of one of those fevers that were around in the 60s and all that kind of. Around that time, there was quite a lot of those things going around, polio and all that. We always used to go for holidays back to Santiago and all that, and we used to travel by train. Then I remember those too, the trips on the train, because from Santiago to Concepcion, I think there's about 1,500 k's. So you, in those days, you did an overnight trip, like we left one town at around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, I think it was, and then you got to the other side around 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So, and in those days, I mean, you travel in economy, I suppose, and the trains used to have the benches, you know, the old leather benches, they used to face each other. You could turn them to face each other, so Mum and Dad used to sort of buy those. And then there was always 2 big suitcases that Mum used to pack, so she used to put them on the ground in between the 2 chairs, and that's where we used to sleep. Because I think there was 3 of us that used to sleep on the floor and another one, you know.
On
Yeah.
the beach.
Yeah, because Mum wouldn't go anywhere without us.
Mm.
Oh no. Remember that lake too, that's where we went swimming because we used to go and spend the whole day there, basically. You know, families and all that, there was always a group of people. I remember going there one summer and Sandra ended up cutting all the bottom of her, the sole of her feet, and that like she stood on glass. Man, it was pretty bad.
What I remember, we used to live in Concepcion. We were medium class, but, you know, because Dad used to work in a really good factory. So we were not poor as such. We never were, and we used to have everything. I remember that because the factory used to give a lot of things. So apart from the wages, we used to get flour, sugar. We used to have a special shop where we went and discount. So in one way, we were quite, you know, all right. We were not poor at all. It used to be really good fun. The school, we used to walk to school in Concepcion. In Concepcion they used to take us in a bus. We used to go in a bus because we had to pass it on bridge. So they used to take us to a private school. So I was brought up in a private school. Yeah, for many years. And everything was quite good. I mean, we used to have good fun.
As far as I remember,
Neighbours,
yep.
all the neighbours. It was really good life, really, in Chile.
Yeah.
Into 1973.
We had the neighbour, remember, they used to call us next door, me and her,
Oh,
whenever
yeah,
it
dance.
was holidays, and they used to call us to go and dance. So we would get dressed up with these frilly dresses and then we'd go and dance for them. So we
Yeah.
would perform.
What was tell us about like holidays in Chile? Like, did you go away? Was it?
Yeah.
Did you travel much? Was it always the same places, or what was that like?
No, we always used to be nearly the same place. Otherwise, Concepcion, we used to go to the beach because the company had a hotel then there and few rooms. So we used to go and stay in the motel or hotel by the beach, or otherwise we used to go to my grandmother, to Santiago.
Oh, yeah.
There was a holidays.
There was
really.
good holidays. We spent lots of time with our parents.
Yeah.
There was one year in particular that I remember. We went in a tent and went and stayed at the beach because you could pitch your tent at the beach anywhere you like. And so we put our tent up, we stayed there, and then we were playing Marroni. Do you remember? We were, what would you call it, Marroni? Like a bed sleeping. Yeah,
Okay.
and so we had mattresses like Marae style, and Mum and Dad was there, all of us kids were there, and then we would pretend that we were sleeping bed, and so we would roll over each other and under each other and kick and hit and all that, and so we played that game in their holidays. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And then the next day
Good.
we went with cardboard boxes and rolled down the hill on the
Oh.
muddy hills. Yeah, it was wonderful. I remember that very clearly.
I remember a lot of good times. I remember us having a good life, a lot. Yeah, I still remember my parents taking us for holidays and with friends, and there used to be a dude across the road from where we lived, where I grew up. And I still got photos of that house, which my uncle took over that house later on. My parents swapped houses. And yeah, I remember holidays, and across the road there was a guy that owned the bus, like it worked around the city, but he owned that bus, and yeah, taking off on that bus at Christmas time and having a lot of holidays, and my parents used to have a lot of parties in that house because it was bigger than all the other houses. My uncle had extended the kitchen, it was huge, and the lounge was huge, so People used to come and ask my parents if they could have parties in their 21st weddings. We were always having parties in there. But I remember we used to be outside till midnight sometimes playing with the kids, and sometimes the parents will be playing outside and with us. And
We used to have a good time, really good time. We used to go a lot of places, but not. Mum and Dad traveled more than what we did, because they used to go away by themselves. They used to live there with Nana. But we had a good time. We used to, Nana used to take us everywhere. She used to do stuff and play with us, and it was good life, really good life.
What about social life?
Oh, and there, it's a lot of social. You know all your neighbours. If whatever you need, you're going to see your neighbours, and you're going to see them in the afternoon. They all get together. They close the roads. They used to have a lot of parties for New Year's, and they used to close the road, and everybody had it there for Christmas time. The same thing. New Year's, you used to have your New Year's at home, and then you used to go and visit all your neighbours. So you used to drink and eat in every house. It was a good time, really good time, and Christmas was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Estábamos todos muy contentos porque en Chile había de todo.
Yeah.
Y mucha gente trabajaba y no había ni un problema.
Yeah. The people were happy because economically it was a good situation. It was a growing country, and there was no real problems. It was just life moving forward and working for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. ¿Y cómo era la cosa con, cómo se llama, con plata, así, con económica? Antes de que derrotaran a Allende, ¿era malo cuando Allende salió de presidente?
Cuando él salió presidente, y fue mejor la economía en Chile, porque empezó a hacer por varios países, hizo cuestiones para que entrara más cosas para el país.
Yeah.
Sí.
When Allende came into power as a president, he said the economy was a growing economy because he established relationships with different countries so that there would be more trading in the country, and he would bring more people buying and selling in Chile. So it was a good economy that he was building.
Yeah.
Porque dijeron que Allende era comunista, y no era comunista, él era socialista. Y por eso lo mataron. Porque dijeron que los comunistas no tenían que gobernar el país.
Well, they said, I don't know who they is, but they said that that Allende was a communist, and they didn't want a communist president or government. They wanted a socialist government, but Allende was a socialist. He was more for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they took his presidency. Yeah.
I remember walking to school, and we saw these planes going past, these fighter pilots, those sort of planes, you know. And I remember my mum coming out to get us, and she took us back home. All of a sudden, it must have happened when the coup happened. It was, and I remember a curfew came on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody was allowed to go outside, and you know, I remember us kids like freaking out. And you know, at night we used to hear gunshots, and you know, we were wondering what the fuck's going on here.
I remember things happening. I still remember when the big coup happened. We had been in Puente Alto for about, I think about 4, maybe 3, 4 years, maybe could be 5, something like that. And I still remember that the house was sort of on a cuna, and then from one side there was this big empty square there. They're supposed to be a park, but trees never grew there really. Square. Anyway, and I remember because Mum asked me to go to the shop and get something, and the shop was sort of like a block away, kind of that I had to go. And I remember coming out and seeing the planes. I seen a couple of fighter jets going, because they were really loud too, and sort of flying quite low. And then you started hearing the gun, the explosives, the big cannon sort of, and the planes sort of. I still remember seeing one of the planes shooting, even though it was in the capital and all that, but because everything was happening in their ear, and that's how it happened in Chile really. Everything just happened from the ear. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then we heard, I think it was on the radio and then the TV. It became a 24-hour thing really. And that's what I can remember from there. And from then on, things just changed really.
1973,
With the coup actually taking place.
we had to hide. We had to hide, and everything happened real fast. They just announced it in the morning. It was on the radio. It was really fast, everything. And my father had few things he had to hide them. And we couldn't go to school for a little bit.
Yeah, the whole country was kind
It
of
was just-
under arrest really because they
The curfew.
You just had to.
The curfew was at 6 o'clock at night. We couldn't go outside. And where we used to live, it was in a Kuna house, and all the dining room, it was all glass. So one day we were all sitting in there, and they started. The army got there. It was you can hear them with the guns and all this. So we had to hide underneath the table. Yeah, real fast. It was real bad actually, because you had to go and get, for example, flour, and you had to queue up, and then the guy from the army, they used to come and they had dead one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to be real mean.
Yeah.
¿Y qué hiciste tú con mi mamá? Tú y mi mamá, ¿cómo están envueltos en eso que los hicieron hacerse refugiados?
Sí, a mí cuando despidieron a mi hermano Jorge, y después yo llevé a la Raquel al doctor y me dio una receta. Y fui a la fábrica a pedir un préstamo para pagar los remedios. Y ahí me acusaron de que los remedios que eran drogas.
Ya,
Y dijeron, aquí no queremos drogadictas, así que usted se va a echar.
ya.
Y de ahí fue que me
Empezó
fui
toda
a
la cosa.
Argentina.
I asked Dad, what led to him being accused of things and that, and leaving and that. And so he said, and I asked him, were you and Mum involved in anything that was politically, you know, led or anything? And he said no. When Allende got taken down, what would you call it?
Yeah.
When he got taken down and his presidency got taken, then Uncle was taken in he was detained. And of course the name then was involved, because my uncle was the president of the union in the paper mill where Dad worked. And so both of them were working there. And Uncle had that more of a role in the company, as in more of a political role in the company. And then they called Dad into the office, and at that point my mum was very sick, and so he was getting scripts for Mum with medicine and that for her to take. But they got wind of that, and they called him into the office, and they said, oh, everything that you're giving your wife is drugs. And so he says, we don't want a drug addict working in this company. and so they took his job and they more or less kicked him out of the factory. And so Dad was now labeled a drug addict. Yeah.
Wow.
So le expliqué todo lo que me dije.
How was she sick? What was?
¿Cómo estaba mi mamá enferma? ¿Qué tenía mi mamá?
Los riñones.
Yeah. She was starting to suffer from her kidney kidney problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When younger, she very sore. He went to one, no doctor, sino que un tipo que da remedio así.
Okay.
Y empezó a tomar de esos remedios y fue peor la cosa.
Yeah. When she was young, she started to get sore in her kidney area, and instead of going to the doctor, they took her to a herbalist, and he started to give her that medicine, so she got worse.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Sí, y falleció por los riñones.
Yeah, and that led to her passing away, the problem with her kidneys. Mi papá, yo me acuerdo cuando mi mamá era niña, ella pasaba en el hospital también.
Sí, pues sí.
Eso era todo, no tenía problemas de mental y todo eso, porque yo me acuerdo que mi mamá a veces tenía, yeah.
No tenía problema.
Yeah. I just asked if did Mum have anything else that was a condition to her, because I remember her being sick in different other ways as well. But Dad is saying no, she didn't. Yeah.
Should we go to something a bit lighter?
Yeah.
When you're in Chile, what was like? Did you have hobbies or play sport? What did you do for fun?
Cuando estaba en Chile, ¿jugabas algún deporte? ¿Tenías algún hobby, algo que hacías tú para tener más alegría y pasarlo bien?
I played football.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
When a little children play football.
Yeah.
When it's 45, 47 years, still working, play football
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ooh. So you play soccer?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the goalie.
I did
You
too,
wanna see.
yeah.
Yeah.
¿Y qué jugabas tú en ese equipo? ¿Qué hacías tú?
Defensa.
So,
What was the process to get to Argentina? Like, how did that happen?
¿Qué pasó que te hizo ir a Argentina y dejar toda tu vida de Chile y cambiarte a Argentina?
Porque me despidieron de la fábrica cuando me dijeron que era
Drogadicto.
drogadicto.
Ya,
Y no, si yo nunca he tomado drogas ni cosas así. Pues.
ya.
Y por eso me despidieron y decidimos irnos a Argentina. Porque mi hermano ya estaba en Argentina y un sobrino también estaba en Argentina.
Ya. Papito también cuenta la historia de qué pasó antes de que nosotros nos fuéramos a Argentina. ¿Tú te acuerdas cuando los militares vinieron por la población de nosotros y se metieron a la casa de nosotros? ¿Te acuerdas tú?
Yeah.
Cuenta esa historia.
Usted,
Espera que le diga en inglés. We're just talking about what led to going
Yeah.
to Argentina, where he said it was because he lost his job and he was accused of being a drug addict. He's never taken drugs in his life. But I said, to tell the story of what happened, of the event that happened before we actually went to Argentina, because the military soldiers came in one afternoon, and often they used to come through the neighborhood and shooting and everything with their guns and everything, and because they were right next door to our community, and so they used to come driving past and shoot. And one night I remember they came into our house, and there were soldiers coming into our house, and they were like, yeah, it was a scary time. So I've asked him if he could tell that story so we can,
we were raided by the army. I remember before we came to Argentina. I think it was about a week before we left Chile. We were raided by the army. I still remember that. Came with guns and everything. I was scared shitless, really. Yeah.
And I remember these army people coming in through the back door. I remember them coming in through the back door with guns and kids crying, and my auntie was freaking out. But I remember me and my cousin, I don't know if he remembers, one army dude bending down in the garden doing some shit. Or I don't know if he was. I thought about it quite a long time, yeah, he was doing something in the garden anyway. And then I remember they took my uncle away, my brother's younger brother. Yeah, they took him away. And apparently later on, over here, I remember my dad telling me that they found a gun in the garden. They planted a gun, he reckons, Dad reckons anyway. Because at that time, as I found out later on, they were coming up with all these charges for different people. And that's how the people were disappearing. And the whole country was going haywire, and I remember not going to school and fucking sweet. No school, hang around home and inside at 3 o'clock and...
Cuéntanos la historia de esa de cuando de entraron los soldados. Yo me acuerdo que era bien...
Sí, andaban buscando al sobrino mío. Y estaba escondido, pero en el techo. En el techo estaba escondido. Y así que revisaron toda la casa y andaban buscando si tenía algo, armas. Un revólver, cualquier cosa así. Yo nunca he tenido de eso.
So they came in la noche, ¿cierto? Fue una noche. Yeah, they came in one night and they targeted our house, and they were looking for Dad's nephew. They wanted to detain him as well, but he was hiding in the roof of our house. He was hiding in the roof of our house. They came in and they checked the whole house, and of course it was a high, tall roof, and there's no, I don't know how he got up there. Anyway, they went through the whole house and checked everything, and they were accusing Dad of having guns and having, weapons in the house. And so they went and they dug up the backyard as well, and there was nothing. But Mom started to complain. ¿Te acuerdas tú que mi mamá también le decía que no, que se vayan, que se vayan? Y mi papá se puso a llorar a mi mamá.
Sí,
Cuenta la historia esa.
Bueno, cuando fueron los militares a revisar, yo estaba trabajando. Sí, cuando llegué a la casa y me dijeron que habían estado los milicos y habían puesto, a ustedes lo habían puesto manos arriba.
So Dad was at work and he was coming out of the night shift, and so they came when Dad wasn't there. Well, they questioned my mom, and they put her up against the wall, and then all of us were in the same, put up against the wall. And Mom was crying and telling them to leave and leave her alone and so on, but they wouldn't. And then they kind of hit Mom with their gun on the side. And then, of course, they found nothing, so they went.
Why were they looking for him? The nephew. Sorry, why were they looking for him?
¿Por qué andaban buscando al sobrino, papá?
Porque era dirigente en una fábrica en Santiago.
The nephew was like a foreman or a manager in a company in Santiago. And so, of course, the name.
They're looking here. They're trying to round up anyone with influence.
I remember of another part before we went to Argentina, so I'm going to ask him about that and see if it's what I remember is right.
Se refugió y de los refugiados lo mandaron a Canadá. Lo mandaron a Canadá.
His nephew eventually became a refugee as well, and he went to Canada, so he lives there now.
Yeah.
Papito, ¿te acordáis tú cuando estábamos en la Genaro Prieto? en la casa vieja, ¿te acordáis?
Mm.
Y llegaron los militares también. Y se metieron a la casa de nosotros, ¿te acordáis?
Sí, pues
y ahí
también
estaban
anda-
escondiendo comida ustedes.
Andaban buscando si teníamos armamento.
Yeah. So I can't remember if the event that happened was that I just told about, the military coming to the neighborhood. I can't remember if that happened before or after another event where we were living in another house and we owned that house. My dad had bought that house, but they swapped homes with their uncle. And so we were in this other place, a different neighborhood, and the military came in as well. And they were like going through the whole neighborhood just looking for arms and guns and everything. And again, because of my dad's name, they targeted our house and they came in. And Mum was hiding food up on this little gap that was in the house. And again, hiding somebody else up there. Yeah, and the military, same event, came in, but this time my dad was there. And I remember that, them coming in. And we were looking through the gaps in the fence and looking, and they were all running to other houses with their guns and everything, and just gone into other houses in the neighborhood. Yeah, it was a scary time as well. So, okay.
We had to move. That's when we swapped houses with my dad's brother. How that happened, I still don't understand that one, because the house that we were, I think Mum and Dad were buying that house, and because they started doing an extension, because I remember all Mum's brothers, my uncles and all that, and cousins came, and they were doing the extension at the back. And then it got halfway, and then we moved to the other house. And then that's when my uncle got taken by the army, and he was in sort of like a concentration camp that they opened in the main stadium in Santiago. And he was there, I think, for about a year. And then Mum and Dad moved into their house, and because they had kids too, so we all left together with my cousins and all that still there, until they moved to the other house. And then my uncle came out of that after a year, I think it was, he came out of jail, and then he was, I remember seeing him one day, and then he was gone. He went to Argentina.
Uncle was the president of the union. Yeah, he went. He had to move from where he was. The house was taken off him, and so he couldn't live where he was, as far as I understand. Yeah. So he couldn't live in that house because the house belonged to the Papelera, the company that he worked for, and so. I don't know why, but Dad gave his house, our house that we had on the other side of town, gave it to Uncle, and then we came to live in the house where Uncle was. And so we swapped houses so that he would have somewhere to live.
He sold the house to my uncle.
No, he didn't.
He sold the house to my uncle, but my uncle never paid him.
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Dastardly.
Yeah, because he had to move in a hurry, and the only solution was, he said with my father, okay, I'll buy your house, and I will make sure that you get this house. It doesn't belong to us, we never can buy it. And I will pay for your house. Okay, my father said, okay, you'll charge us so much, but they never paid it. So my father ended up giving a house and went up with something else that we didn't even belong to us, and we had to move away after.
Yeah.
My uncle ended up with a good house.
There's a whole lot of funny things that went on, and it seemed like a short space of time, but it would have been like a long time in happening in there. But we were kids, we were just
6
too busy
months,
doing our own
everything.
things. Didn't even think of anything
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it took about 6 months.
Yeah.
It So there was 6 months until you left, or
It was not.
or till things to settle.
Everything happened in 1973. We left Chile in 1975, but we left because they were looking for my father, Aravena, and they threw my father out from work. They accused him of quite a few things and nothing to do with it, and we had to go. But at the same time, one of my father's friends that belonged to the same political group told my father we had to get out of Chile. You had to get out of here. He said, because they're looking for you now. They got my uncle now, they're looking for you, so you better. So then, mom and dad, they say, okay, we had to do something because this happened. And my uncle coming out from the stadium, and he went straight to Argentina, refugee in Argentina. So my father got a hold of him, and that's how they said, yeah, we're gonna get you out. And all the group, because there was a big group in there, belonged to the same political status, they got us in nighttime. And I live with them, we just bring a few things. And they took us in nighttime in a bus, and they dropped us off somewhere else in another bus. And from there, they took us over the Argentina border.
So how did you get to Argentina? Was it obviously you had to go through a process to apply, or
Yeah.
was it just go and hope that you get there?
¿Cómo llegamos a Argentina después de todos esos eventos que pasaron? ¿Cómo supiste tú de irte en Argentina y después llegar a Argentina? ¿Cómo era el proceso? ¿Eso tuvimos que aplicar en algo?
Que éramos políticos refugiados.
Ya,
Y nos hicieron hacer un papel con el nombre de toda la familia y si queríamos ir a otra parte.
ya,
Y eso Nueva Zelanda me eligió a mí porque tenía buena familia.
ya,
Teníamos eran 4 hijos,
ya,
2 hijas y 2 hijos.
ya. Pero cuando salimos de Chile, ¿te acuerdas tú que salimos en un bus?
Yeah.
Yo me acuerdo, eso
Yeah.
no me acuerdo mucho.
Sí.
Pero ¿qué pasó con la casa de nosotros y los muebles y todo eso que teníamos? ¿Qué pasó con eso? Ya,
Vivíamos en la papelera, que era casa de la fábrica.
ya,
Así que la desocupamos nomás y
ya,
todo lo que teníamos, los muebles, las camas, todas las repartimos para la familia.
ya, ya.
Y ahí nos fuimos.
Okay. When we came out of Chile, okay, Uncle, my mother's older brother came in with the truck that they used to have, and he packed everything in the truck. And by this time, my grandfather, I think, had passed away. And so he packed everything in the truck, and he distributed the furniture to anybody and everybody that wanted anything from us. And then we got ready and left. Y cuando lo salimos de Chile, ¿a qué hora lo salimos? ¿Era la noche o en el día?
En el día.
En el día.
Ya.
Ya.
El bus salió a las 9 de la mañana.
Okay, so after all of that happened, we left at 9 o'clock in the morning and went in the bus. And some of the family came to say goodbye. And then we went across the border. Yeah. I
Trip
remember a
over?
little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. And remember going past the border, and then there's a kind of a mountain with a cross.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and remember that very
Yes.
clear. And then once you went over the other side, you were in Argentina. And then we got to
We didn't hit passport
Mendoza.
after.
Yeah, we got to the middle of town. There's nowhere to go. Where did we go?
And then we came to Argentina, and even there, live in Chile too, I was really early in the morning, super early. I was like just kind of moving like so nobody would know that we were going, kind of thing. Yeah. And then we went to Argentina.
Do you remember how you got there?
Yeah, we went on in those days, you could fly, but we went by land. They used to have this buses, but they were sort of short buses because they couldn't. Long buses can't get through there. Yeah, because when we went, it was sort of end of summer, I think it might have been. So the tunnel was closed then, so we went through the top. It's 12 hours from Santiago to Mendoza. So yeah, and we went, and yeah, that's how you get, and they used to have cars as well, they were sort of like taxis. You could, but we did it on those buses, and you could, I think you could sit about 25 people in one of them, sort of. It was like big buses, but cut in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, still remember those, and big engines and all that. And even on that trip, because it's all sort of really windy, and I remember part of it, you go through this gorge, driving through this gorge, and the driver had the side. Do you know how here in the gorge they have the metal barrier? Well, I remember it was like that, and the bus had the side of it, the door, and they couldn't close the door, so they had to stop. And yeah, and because it was one of the old doors that was sort of like the Constantina kind of doors, you know, the old fashioned.
Old sort of door, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those. I still remember that. And then somebody got really sick up the top. I think it was Pat. They got really sick or nose bleeding from the altitude that you go.
Yeah, I came home and my mum telling us that to go and say goodbye to all our mates, and my dog was going to stay with my neighbours, say goodbye to everybody, and there were people buying furniture and yeah, and all of a sudden we're on these black cars and we were off to some bus station and over the Andes and over to Argentina.
That was it?
Yeah, yeah. As a kid, I was 10 years old. As a kid, I never understood. I mean, I did what my parents were doing, but I was, you know, at that time I remember thinking, well, why do I have to leave my dog? Why? What's going on?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And then it was an adventure, because we were going on this bus over the Andes and snow in the mountains, and next thing we're in Argentina, and you know, I remember calling these kids pendejos, you know, which is pubic hair in Chile, you know, and I was joking around with my parents, oh, look at that pendejo, look, you know. And it was more like an adventure to me than anything else, you know. Later on, you know, talking to Dad over here, being older and all that, asking him all these questions, but he will explain a few things, and so you can understand this far, and then the rest, you know.
We got to the other side, and my uncle was waiting for us, and they took us to where you had to apply to be a refugee. And they put us in a hotel in the meantime. A couple of nights, I think, we stayed there. They paid for this, into our papers and everything when it's refugees. And then they put us in a refugee hotel. Yeah.
Y cuando llegamos a Argentina, ¿qué pasó?
Nos dieron una pieza para donde dormíamos todos juntos.
Ya. ¿Quién dio la pieza? ¿No la rentamos nosotros?
No, sí, era gratis.
Sí.
Y al frente había un restaurante y ahí trabajaba el papá de la Mariole.
Ya.
Él trabajaba ahí.
Ya. Pero tú te acordás, papi, cuando llegamos a Argentina, ese día llegamos a Argentina, yo me acuerdo más o menos, y después teníamos que buscar a dónde vivir, ¿te acordáis? Que no
Sí.
teníamos dónde vivir. Y mi mamá fue y vendió los anillos de ella y sacó plata. ¿Te acuerdas de eso?
Y encontramos una casa y tenía un restaurante. Y la Raquel cocinaba ahí en el restaurante. Y estaba a cargo de toda la cocina. Y yo manejaba la camioneta que tenía el dueño era esa, porque era un peruano, y yo manejaba esa y repartía comida.
Papi, no me acuerdo yo de eso. Yo no me acuerdo nada de eso. Pero cuando recién llegamos a Argentina, el primer día que llegamos a Argentina, yo me acuerdo que los paramos ahí y miraban para todos lados, ¿dónde vamos a dormir ahora en la noche?
Sí.
¿Te acuerdas tú? Y mi mamá fue a vender los anillos de ella. ¿Te acuerdas tú de eso? Eso
Sí,
es
pues.
cierto.
Como le digo, nos dieron una pieza y teníamos que dormir todos juntos.
Okay. When I think Dad has got some of the things kind of mixed up as well, some of the events. But when we first came to Argentina, I remember myself. The story could change because we all seem to have a little piece of the puzzle in it. But I remember myself getting to Argentina, crossing the border, and then we got there, and there's nowhere. Where are we going to sleep tonight? Where are we going to go? We had no plan, I think. And Mum had some gold rings from her wedding rings. Well, she went and sold them and got some money, and then we rented a hotel room. And we all slept in that hotel room, and we lived there for, I can't remember, for a short time. And then, this is what Dad is telling me, what he remembers. And then we became refugees because some of the Chileans that Dad met said, now they're taking people in and you can have asylum in there because we didn't have a visa, I think, to be in Argentina.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we had to get some kind of reason why, so we could stay there. And that's where we became refugees as well. We couldn't go back to Chile and became refugees. Then Dad is telling me that we got given a room, and that's what I remember. We were sleeping in a room and all had to sleep together. But I remember that we got the girls separated and the boys separated, and we didn't all sleep together, no husband and wives. And then we had to get up early in the morning, have breakfast, and then get out of that place, and they'll shut the doors, and then come back at a certain time in the evening.
So it's more like a shelter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were in a shelter, but the shelter had to be empty for the day. Yeah, something like that.
When we went over the border, you just go with your identification, you don't go passport. We got to the other side, and my uncle was waiting for us, and they took us to where you had to apply to be a refugee. And they put us in a hotel in the meantime. A couple of nights, I think we stayed there. They paid for this, into our papers and everything when it's a refugees. And then they put us in a refugee hotel. Yeah. And that's where we started. Yeah. And one place they put us first was where the woman sleep on one side and the men sleep on the other side. And after this they put us in a motel, and it was only one room for all of us. Romina was not there, so one less. But one room for all of us. We were there for 3 years, not in the same motel.
Yeah,
it was
now
two
we
of
never
them.
moved around as well, didn't we?
Yeah, it was only 2 motels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yo me acuerdo, papá, que llegamos a ese hotel y ustedes pagaron por el hotel. Vivimos ahí en un tiempo y después uno de los chilenos te dio la recomendación que te pusieras de refugiado con la UN. Y de ahí nos dieron a donde los mandaron ¿cómo le llamaban esa cuestión? Donde tenían ese portón bien grande que cerraban y abrían. Y los separaron a nosotros, y los hombres dormían en este lado y las mujeres en este lado, ¿te acordás tú? ¿Ya? Y después teníamos que levantarlos tempranito en la mañana y salir, y andar dando vueltas por todos lados hasta llegar como a las 8 de la noche para dormir. ¿Te acuerdas de eso tú?
Sí.
Ya. ¿Y qué pasó después?
Bueno, como le digo, después logramos encontrar una casa y que tenía el restaurante el peruano.
Ya,
Y ahí teníamos 3 dormitorios.
ya,
Y como le digo, la Raquel cocinaba.
ya.
Ella estaba a cargo de la cocina.
Yeah, yeah. After that, the life started as a refugee in Argentina, and so they determined where we live and what we did and how we live, what we ate and all that. And you're not allowed to work, so or go to school. So you are refugees, and none of the privilege of the country apply to you, except what the UN gives you. That's how you live. And so Dad is saying that they befriended this man who owned a hotel, and Mum to work. She became even though she wasn't supposed to work, but it wasn't for wages. It was for staying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she became the cook in the place, and he used to drive the van to deliver the food that Mum was cooking. Yeah. Ahí le expliqué yo, del hotel donde vivía.
Un amigo me ayudó a trabajar de plomero y él me enseñó qué es lo que tenía que hacer.
Yeah.
Porque eran casas que estaban edificando y teníamos que ponerle agua a los baños, a la cocina, todo eso.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y yo trabajaba en eso,
Yeah.
de plomero, haciendo...
Pero no porque te pagaran plata, ¿cierto? Sino que para trabajar nomás. Porque no te pagaban, ¿cierto?
No, sí, me pagaban, pero no mucho, era poquito.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of his then, after he stopped delivering the food, a friend of his grabbed him and taught him how to do plumbing.
Oh yeah.
And then he got him a job in a construction site, and he started to do plumbing for them, but for very, very small wages. So they were kind of getting him to work, but not paying him a lot of money.
Wages,
yeah, proper wages, because they couldn't. It was illegal, and so they learned how to be a plumber, but not got his diploma or anything. Just learned. Yeah.
We had some hard times in Argentina, I still remember. Really hard times. My mum being pregnant, I remember, and cooking outside in a fire because we couldn't afford gas, you know.
Yeah.
And Dad worked and worked and worked, and I think because like Argentinians treated Chileans really like shit. I remember going to work with Dad because later on I found out, and I believe that sometimes I will go to work with Dad because there was no either bus money for us to go to school, or no lunch, or no food, or so, you know, they'll send me with Dad and I'll give him a hand with whatever work he was doing. But sometimes he didn't get paid. Argentinians will go, well, I don't want to pay you. You got no leave to stand, sort of thing.
¿Y qué hiciste después? Vivíamos con mi tío Jorge, ¿cierto? ¿Te
Sí.
acordás tú? ¿Ya? ¿Y te acordás tú, papi, cuando yo fui a trabajar contigo?
No me acuerdo.
¿No? Ya, yo trabajaba en la construcción donde iba mi tío y yo lo que sacaba la pintura del piso. Ya. Y yo le prometí a mi mamá que le iba a comprar un abrigo ¿cómo se llama? Un fur coat, me acuerdo yo. Cuando llegué tenía menos de $5, no me alcanzó la... Yeah. So, I work with my dad in this construction site. And I remember getting up early and walking with him and you know, it was dark still, and we would get there early in the morning, just walking down. And he can't remember it, but I remember that. And so my job was to scrape the paint off the floor. Yeah, and I thought I would earn a good wage. And when I got my first pay, because I promised my mum I would buy her a fur coat when I got to, yeah, and I promised so much to my mum. I was only a young girl. Yeah, and when they paid me, it was less than $2 or something, and not even enough to buy many things, yeah. So I went and bought a packet of biscuits, and that's what I came home with, and some biscuits for my mum. Yeah, it's a true story, but only a part of it is true.
Yeah.
What happened was that by that time we had gone through like different places, different hotels, and then we were living in this little apartment where we all slept together. We had been moved from where we were because they had to keep rotating people, so making giving the bigger places to bigger families that were coming in, and so they gave us a little apartment where we lived, and it was Dad's birthday, and so we were celebrating Dad's birthday, and we had a little barbecue. and you're not allowed to do that. That was part of the regulations. No parties, no parties. And someone got wind of it, and because I guess, I don't know if we didn't invite them to the party or something, I don't know. I don't know why, but the UN got wind of that, and so Dad was called to the office to be told that his food was going to be cut off because we're having parties, and we probably have enough money to look after ourselves if we're having parties. And so the food got cut off. And that's when Piney and another friend, Kofre, they were working in the kitchen. And Piney was assisting the chef. And he was a refugee himself. And so we got punished for having a party by taking all our privilege away. And so we didn't get given dinner or lunch or anything like that. And so Piney was sneaking food to us, and that was the
And you would have to wait till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning just to get food. And
to get food and to eat. And then there would be like whatever, because they would take, Piney had 2 girls, which is Marioli and their son, 3. 2 girls and 1 boy. And one of the girls had to give the food, their plate of food to us. And then Kofre was the other friend of Piney, was his best friend. One of his kids would have to give the plate of food to us, and then they distribute their own food amongst the kids so that nobody went with us. And that's how we got food. Yeah, and they were sneaking it in because there were people watching. Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
Argentina, remember more than Chile. Argentina, we got up to fucking a lot of things, man. A lot of, you know, because we used to get out through the window when my parents were asleep and go out into town because everything was open, hanging around with mates and pickpocketing and taking all the tips from the tables on the street and doing all kinds of stuff, eh? Yeah. We used to get around in Argentina. Used to get around. I remember there used to be a bakery, real nice bakery in Argentina, and they're quite big. And as you walk in the door, there's a lady with a till, and you tell her what you want. She gives you a ticket, and it'll say there buns or cake or whatever, and then you take it up to the man up there, and he'll give you. But these people will chuck them out on the floor. So we'll just walk in and say we're just having a look, pick up a ticket, hand it in, and you get a feed. We used to go there all the time. We roamed the city because we used to start at, I think it was 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the afternoon. We used to start school. So you know we'd be out till midnight sometimes playing with mates, and 1 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes our parents would come out and play, and you know, and then we used to catch 2 buses. And then walk for about, say 20 minutes to school through this park. And they used to have, because there was this like squares, like a square in Palmy in Argentina where we lived. There was a square over here, a square over here, and a square over here, and there was heaps to hang around and play whatever, you know. So we used to cross this park, huge park, to get to the school. And they have ice cream parlours. They were like restaurants, like huge ice cream parlours and everywhere in Argentina. And you go and sit there and have an ice cream, and they give you a little glass of ice water to go with it, you know. They're all different ice creams, and we used to call in there and carry on to school. But schools, the school that we went to in Argentina, the uniform, I remember, it was like a doctor's frock, white. That was it. That was a uniform. Whatever you wore underneath, it's up to you. And they had to be kept clean, white. Like any marks, you get sent home, or dirt behind your ears or in your nails, or you know, all that sort of shit. Mum used to work hard to get those fucking things clean.
She didn't make it easy.
Yeah.
Me and Pet went to school in Argentina. Actually, we went the last 2 years that we were there. We went to school. We went to a really good school. Yeah, I really liked it in Argentina, the school. But we left in one end of town and we had to go to the other. So me and Pet used to catch a bus to school in a bus bag, walk half, and then catch a bus the rest of the way. So, yeah.
Was it a big difference between Chile and Argentina?
No. No, because even the hours are pretty similar, because you have the mornings or the afternoon shifts, and we used to do the afternoon, start at 1 and finish at 4 or 5, I think it was,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I really liked it.
This motel was quite hard actually. We had to go across the road to get meals.
Yeah.
They used to have a big dining room. We used to go and have meals, and you couldn't complain. You just have whatever they give you, and if you don't eat nothing, there's me. You go hungry, and yeah, it
We
was
ate
really
well.
hard.
We didn't
It was
starve.
good.
Except for when they
Yes.
told us off because we celebrated Dad's birthday, remember?
Yeah, but the other one where mom and dad was working in the motel residential, that was quite good life. We had a really good time in there. Yeah, it was different. But that's the time we were living with in one house,
Then
two
we-
families,
yeah.
his family and us. We were living in one house. So we had room for mom and dad, one for my uncle and my auntie, one for their daughter, and then another one. All we used to sleep in there, you remember? My cousins and all of us, we used to sleep in one room. Yeah.
Because we were staying in a hotel, but then you could move if you found another way, and then you will still carry on paying. But if you found another way, and we found that it was easier to live, as far as I understand, it was easier to live with uncles and cousins and all of us, and then pay less, and then have some money to spend it on other things that we need. And so we left with them for a time. That didn't go down very well either.
Yeah.
And how did the process? How did you get here? How did the family end up in New Zealand? Was it a choice,
Yeah.
or was it you're going now?
¿Cómo la familia, yo le expliqué ese evento, papi, ¿te acordás tú cuando los quitaron la comida a nosotros? Y el paine y el cofre, los daban comida, le quitaban un platito de los niños de ellos para darle comida a nosotros.
Yeah.
Le expliqué eso, porque Liz dijo que ella sabía esa historia, pero era la mitad de la historia nomás, así que lo expliqué yo. Y ahora la pregunta es, ¿cómo llegamos nosotros aquí a Nueva Zelanda? ¿Fue algo que tú elegiste de venir para acá o algo que la UN te dijo a dónde iba?
No, los encargados de donde estábamos, de los refugiados políticos, ellos decían, usted va a Nueva Zelanda porque tiene buena familia, 5 hijos. Y cuando nos vinimos, veníamos 10 familias juntas.
Y todos tenían más o menos.
Salimos en el avión a Los Ángeles, en Estados Unidos. De ahí nos llevaron a comer y la policía lo andaba cuidando para que no nos pasara nada. Y ahí después fuimos al avión y llegamos a Hawái, de Hawái, Nueva Zelanda.
Y yo me acuerdo de eso, y con el Nano, ¿te acordás que el Nano tomándose bien curadito quería llegar a Nueva Zelanda? When the time came, the UN got 3 countries that we could apply for.
Yeah.
And so my dad made the application. So it was Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. It was the choices that they had for us. But we didn't choose. In the end, they said, no, you you and your family are going to New Zealand.
Mm.
The reason why is because they had children who were coming up to the age of working.
Ah.
And so they wanted people who will be at work in New Zealand and not,
Mm.
not being away to the country, but contributing to the country.
Yeah.
And so Dad had 5 children.
Mm.
Yeah.
When you found out you were leaving Argentina, like what was the reaction from the family? Like when I'm guessing somebody, Papa, maybe came home and said, "Oh, well, we're going. Or, we've been accepted," or.
Well, because we went to Argentina sort of knowing that we were going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I think the aim was to go to Australia, everybody going to Australia, or no, to Canada, that was it. Because a lot of people were going to Canada, that's what motivated Mum and Dad. Because in those days, there was a whole lot of Chileans that left, I mean, a whole lot all at once really, it was thousands of them, yeah. I mean, I remember reading somewhere years and years and years later when I was here that Chile had lost something like 25% of its population that was in exile.
Mm.
I mean, there were countries like, there was Australia, Canada, United States, the UK, Switzerland, what was the other one? Did I say, yeah, I said New Zealand. And there was 2 other countries. There was about 8 countries that were taking Chilean people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because the aim, I think the aim was to sort of go there and then go to Canada. But I think that by then Canada has sort of filled its quota.
Mm.
So New Zealand came into the play in Australia, and I think it was choice, and sort of we were told sort of pretty much go there kind of thing. But I still remember we were living in a house with my uncle's family and my cousin's family, and there was about 5 families living in this one house. But yeah, I think it was the end of the week when we found out, and we were just, I think that Dad was just relieved because we knew that things were going to get better, because before we left Argentina, we were really struggling, yeah, really badly.
Yeah, I remember there was a dude, an old fella that lived there. I can't remember where he was from, but he had been living there in that hotel for quite a while. Some other country, South American country anyway. And because when Dad applied for New Zealand, whether they could take us as refugees, we got these brochures like travelling that show, travelling guides and shit like that. We got that, and we were looking at it, and the Maoris were shown in there, all these Maoris. And there was this old dude that he was a hard case old fella, right? And he was telling Mum that as soon as you get there, they're going to take your kids, and these Maoris are going to take your kids and teach them how to fight, because there's a fight going on between the Maoris and the whites, Then we knew as kids because he used to fucking, all the time. But Mum was quite worried about that, I remember.
And then they call my father and they say, okay, we found you where you're moving and you're doing win and all this real fast. So they come home and told us. And we all think, you had your boyfriend. I had a boyfriend those years. And we just had to real fast get our stuff and get rid of a lot of things and just a little suitcase each. And they sent us to Buenos Aires to get our papers, because we didn't have no papers, no passport, nothing like this.
We went from Mendoza to Buenos Aires, so we stayed there for a month, because that's where you went to sort of for the final process of immigrating somewhere else as you refugees and all that. That's why you got your passports and
Yeah.
security checks and all that kind of thing, and vaccines as well. Because in those days, man, you had to get a lot of injections.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was something like 5 injections, and one of them you have to have one first and then wipe for a few days or a week, I think it was, and then you have the other one. I think it was the what's it called? Because tuberculosis.
Oh yeah.
And in those days, it was really big thing, sort of big, yeah. Because when we came here, I remember Pat got tested and they found it tested positive, but it was mainly because of something to do with the vaccine that he was given and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Pat nearly went into isolation there for a while.
All right.
And then, ¿10 familia o 11 familia? 11 familia, ¿cierto? 11.
10 familias veníamos.
Yeah. And we left to New Zealand, and there was 10 families that came with us. All of them equally had children as well that were of the age of coming into work. And then we got to America, so we traveled from Argentina to America, to Los Angeles. And then we had police around us protecting us, apparently.
I remember counting, I think we went, oh man, I can't remember how many countries we went through. But when we got to America, Los Angeles, I think it was 8 hours that we had to wait there at the airport. And I remember me and Leo going by the doors where you get out, and we weren't allowed to go past those doors, but looking at all the cars and all the American cars they used to see in the movies, you know, we were seeing them right there, that car, blah, blah, you know. But I remember, and I tried to ask Dad one time what the hell was all that about, but I remember these men dressed in black, like literally dark glasses in black, and like being with us at the airport. Everywhere we went, they
And I
gave
remember a whole lot of security sort of in Los Angeles and Honolulu and Venezuela too. I remember when we went change from Pan Am and then to Los Angeles. From Pan Am we went on to New Zealand. Yeah.
And we had to stop in Los Angeles we had to get out of the plane and then we had to wait for the next one. But they sent us with bodyguard when we got there. We had bodyguards because the thing was that we heard that somebody in Los Angeles, they're going to kill one of the men. And the man, but we didn't know who. And to wait after I found out he was dead because the surname. So we went to the toilet and we went with this woman, she was looking after us. We went to have something to eat and we had 2 or 3 guards with us, because they're gonna kill Dad. So, but I didn't know. They sent to away after we got to New Zealand. Why? Because I asked Dad one day, and then he told me what was going on. He said, well, the thing was that somebody was gonna get killed because the politics and all this, and he was dead. Yeah.
And then they gave us like $2 per person to buy some lunch while we waited at the airport. And so there was a big commotion with all of us because we had never seen that way of serving food. And it was like you go to the counter like you do now. You go into a bakery and you pick what you want from the display thing. Yeah. We'd never seen that before. It's not done like that in Chile when we were there. So anyway, we were all laughing and making jokes of it and trying to buy what we could buy with the $2, which was a lot at that time. 1978, it was quite a good amount. Yeah. And then from there, we left to Hawaii, and from Hawaii to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Me acuerdo que cuando estábamos aquí en Nueva Zelanda y nos daban $7 a la semana para que compráramos comida para lo que quisieran comprar. Y yo en ese tiempo fumaba, pero no sabíamos inglés, así que no había cómo pedir los cigarros. Así que iba a un negocio y agarraba y los fósforos.
Lo pondremos ahí en ese film, papi, porque no lo pueden venir a buscar. When we first came to New Zealand, we arrived at the airport, and a friend of ours, this is not what Dad has just said, but I just triggered my memory. A friend of ours in Argentina had told us to be very careful when we come to New Zealand because there's the natives here and they eat people. And so the women will become slaves and the men will probably be eaten if they're not up to working. Yeah, if they're too old, they will be going to the pot. And so we expected that to happen. And one of our friends, we're so ignorant of it, one of our friends got really, really drunk in the plane because they offered us alcohol then. Yeah, he got really drunk because he says, I'm not going to be sober when they put me in that pot. He said, I'm going to be drunk so I don't feel any pain. Yeah, and so he got here and he's absolutely groggy. Anyway, we get to the airport, and the airport is more modern than the one that we left behind. It was looking very clean and very nice. And of course, New Zealand was a very growing country here. And then we all laughing because all we saw was men wearing shorts and socks and shoes. It's not it was not a fashionable thing to do in the States. But in New Zealand it was the norm. Yeah, and so we were making fun of all these people and that and just taking the mickey out of, and of course no one understood what we were saying, thank God for that.
And we didn't know nothing about New Zealand. We didn't even heard New Zealand at all before they told us. So in one way it was good time because we're in the plane, we had time, and for us it was just yay. But then when we got to New Zealand we didn't know nothing about this country, and then somebody told us, and here was what do you call it, Maori, they eat people.
Remember the king of Kaka?
Yeah, so it was quite a few things in here when we got to New Zealand. And the first thing I did when I got out of the plane, I saw this guy with police outfit, uniform, but with shorts and socks to here and sandals. We just couldn't believe it when I look at them, and I'm thinking, my God, look at the people.
How they dressed.
Yeah, how they dress, yeah. But it was all English, and we were just, saying nothing.
Yeah.
I think it would have been more sense of relief for mum and dad.
Yes.
Because we were finally going to be more settled, things were going to be more
Hope.
more, we had hope as well, the things that, we will grow up in a better place, I guess, it would have been more, but for us it was all like fun and games, really. And then we went to Marceline Hall, and from there, we were well looked after by New Zealand, and well received. And then they were giving us $7 por persona, ¿cierto? $7. $7 per person to buy food of what we needed. And Dad said, because we didn't speak English, he couldn't express that he was a smoker. And so he didn't get money for smokes. And so sometimes he go to the shop and he steal the smokes. So I said to him, you sure you want to put that on the bill? They might come to charge you for all the years that you stole this. And so he makes sure that a packet of cigarettes and some matches for and he just take them. Yeah.
When you found out you were coming to New Zealand, were you excited? Was it happy? Were you sad to be leaving South America? Or
Cuando estábamos en Argentina, ¿cierto? ¿Te acuerdas tú de cómo lo sentíamos todos nosotros, tú y mi mamá? ¿Estaban tristes de haber dejado el país y de venir para acá? ¿O cómo se sentían ustedes?
Bueno, no nos sentíamos tan tristes, sino que preocupados de qué es lo que iba a pasar para el futuro.
Yeah.
Especialmente por ustedes que lo que podían hacer.
Yeah, yeah. They were not so sad to leave the country because of all those years that we had been away. It was just they gotten used to it. But they were more concerned with our future because we were young and they didn't know what was going to happen to all of us. How were we going to survive in this world and what would happen in New Zealand? Yeah.
Esa foto es de Buenos Aires,
Oh, yes.
Argentina. The day before, take going to the plane.
Yeah. Oh, the day
So
before.
I take a shower, and Raquel también take a shower.
Oh, it's the day before.
Yeah, there was a day before.
Oh yeah, I know that we've had that photo.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realise it was the day before you guys.
Yeah, it's the day before
Kicking
we're
bell
getting ready.
bottoms.
Yeah, how are they? Handsome man.
Yeah.
Very handsome man.
But they were concerned for our future.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
concerned, yeah.
What was your first impressions of New Zealand? Like, beautiful, cold, wet?
¿Cuál fue la impresión de ustedes de Nueva Zelanda? ¿Que era bonito, hacía frío, mojado? ¿Cómo era la impresión de ustedes?
Estábamos contentos porque resulta que encontramos todo verde
Yeah,
y no había mucho viento, no había mucho frío,
yeah,
y que estábamos súper contentos.
yeah. ¿Y te acordás cuando les dieron las galletas de ginger nut biscuit a mi mamá? Yeah. He said that they were all happy because New Zealand was such a green-looking country and so clean and tidy. And in fact, my cousin said the same thing when she came. She said that she was very, very impressed with the way that New Zealand is kept so clean. And it wasn't so cold or anything. We came in February, so it was a nice, beautiful weather at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
so yeah.
And then just getting off the plane, I remember just getting off the plane here, and it was a beautiful sunny day, hot as, and man, I don't know, I just felt like I love this country, man. You know. And and even walking through the airport and getting out and driving around, you could feel like there was no tension here. There was like everybody was just relaxed, and you know. And next thing I think it was a few days later from where we were staying, somebody took us for a walk, took us to a supermarket, and I saw this woman with this kid in pyjamas, freaking shopping. I thought, fucking brilliant. and even seeing, you know, dudes out with jandals and a singlet and shorts just walking around or shopping or whatever, you know. Because I remember my mum used to take me and Leo quite often to the city, to Santiago, to do shopping and this market and all that. But we had to get all dressed up, like best Sundays, and you weren't allowed to do anything because you might get them dirty for next time, and you know, so you couldn't relax as a kid. I remember I couldn't climb a tree or be careful how you eat that ice cream, and you know all that. And then you get over here and it's just like I'm allowed to wear that.
So once you arrived
Yeah.
here, you get off the plane.
Yeah.
What happens then? Like you're off the plane, you're on the tarmac.
There was a group of people that came to pick us up. They were from, I think, the church, a Catholic church or some Methodist church
It
or
was
someone
a
like that. But it was a group of Christians. Yeah.
Preschool.
And they came to pick us up, and I think in a van, and we went to Marceline Hall, which was a school for priests and
yeah.
nuns. That it was closed then to them, and they opened it up for us. And so 10 of us families. There was some, you know, I think we were the biggest family
Yeah.
with the 5
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, and we all stayed there. They prepared morning tea, and
Yeah, the women
They-
used to cook.
they
Like
were
mom.
really good. They looked after
Yeah.
us really good.
And so you stayed at that hall.
We stayed there. They had little rooms
A
in
month,
there.
I think.
Yeah, they had a little rooms in there for one single bed.
Yeah.
So, and another one for mom and dad. They were all little room, but not close. It was just a little wall, but halfway
Yeah, yeah.
in the door, but
Yeah.
everybody can see.
Sort of like domes kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they're just sort of separated, really,
Just separated, but not.
closed off.
Yeah, it was this big lawn, and it was big toilets and all this, and the kitchen was huge. They had everything in the kitchen, food for us to cook.
Yeah.
So the woman used to say, okay, 2 today, cook, and tomorrow another 2. Yeah. So it was, and they used to teach us English. Yeah. We pick
Try.
up some. Well, we pick up something like over there. You remember? Yeah, the woman who used to teach us.
We
It
used
was
to sing
fun.
"Oh Danny Boy."
Did they have clothes or
Nothing in the beginning. Nothing.
just lived with what you
because,
had?
Yes, we had to stay with what we had until we got a benefit, and they give us money. Don't know how this came, but they give us some money so we can survive for a little while.
And buy clothes or
Yeah,
Essential.
Yeah, when we were there for a month, and they teach us where to go, like how to buy stuff and all this the first month. Oh, and there was a lot of people who used to bring second-hand clothes, lots of clothes, and then we used to go. They used to have it in a room, and we can go to the room and pick up whatever we wanted. Yeah, that's how we started.
And the food was a shock.
Yes, very, very. Like when we got the first day we got here in the hall, when we got there, it was this table already with a lot of food. And they had peanut butter, marmite, they had the mayonnaise, they had few things that we keep looking and thinking,
ginger nut biscuits.
ginger nut biscuit and club sandwiches. And Mom didn't want to eat anything because she reckoned the lettuce was not washed, was not clean, and all this
And
stuff
the
they
ginger
had.
nut biscuits.
Yeah.
You went, what they think we are?
Yeah.
Got teeth.
And
Long
the
teeth.
tomato sauce.
Yeah.
They had tomato sauce in there. They had
It's good
beetroot,
food.
ham, salads. That's what I remember. Biscuit, cake.
They had everything out of the
some of
normal
the
food.
slice, but it was a little bit chopped because it's not something that we used to eat. But it was not bad. It was quite nice actually.
Just
Some of
different.
this- completely different for us.
¿Y a dónde fuimos a vivir?
Guayuco,
Ya.
la Iglesia Católica nos expulsó a nosotros y nos llevó a una casa. Y a mí me consiguieron trabajo en la fábrica donde hacían las latas para los techos y fierro y todo eso.
Okay.
3 meses yo estuve trabajando ahí y yo no hablaba inglés, así que andaba mirando así. Y un tipo maorí me enseñó a decir qué es lo que tenía que hacer, qué es lo que tenía que decir.
Ya.
Y a las 10 de la mañana todos iban a tomar café al restaurante que tenía ahí. Y yo seguía trabajando porque no tenía idea de eso.
Ya.
A las 12 parábamos para ir al lunch.
Ya.
Y yo también seguía ahí trabajando y no hacía nada.
Ya.
Y un día un hindú me pescó y me dijo, "Come on", y me llevó al restaurante para que tomara té o café, lo que quisiera. Y después de 3 meses que estuve trabajando ahí no recibí ni un dinero, porque no me explicaron a mí que el dinero iba directo a un banco. Había un chileno ahí que era casado con una mujer y él me fue a ver un día y me dijo, ¿cómo estáis bien? Le dije, yo bien, estoy trabajando en tal parte y yo 3 meses y no me han pagado. Le dije, no, mejor, vamos al banco. Fuimos al banco y ahí estaba la plata. Así que saqué la plata yo, íbamos caminando para la casa y vi que había un auto que estaban vendiendo. Y fue y lo compré y pagué al contado el auto.
Ya. ¿Le cuento? Ya. Ayuda, acordarme de lo que me dijiste primero. Oh, my mind has gone blank.
No, it's okay. We've recorded it all, so.
Yeah. I'll just tell you what I remember. Oh my God. What's happened to me? He just telling me about, because we jumped the gun kind of thing.
Yeah,
we
that's right.
went to live in Wayuku. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's telling me that. Yeah, and he went to work in the mill in Wayuku, a steel mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
in Glenbrook, yeah,
Yeah.
he went to work there. And he didn't speak English, so he didn't know what was going on. So what he did is that he just walk and have a look and see what the others were doing and copy what they were doing in that and just work like that. But he didn't know, and he worked there for like 3 months, and he said almost the 3 months he didn't know when it was morning tea. And he said everybody will go out and he didn't know what was going on, and he'll stay at work because he didn't know. And then every day it was happening like that. And he said this Maori man took him and he said, I'll show you what to do. And he said, now you have to say this and you have to do that and you have to go there. And so he started to show him how to work and what to do. And then after several days of not going out for his break, because he carried on working and he was none the wiser. And then this Hindu guy that was working there, he grabbed him and he says, oh no, gotta come and have something to eat. And so he took him. And they didn't know what was going on. And then he realized, there's break times, there's time for work, time for lunch and all of that. And then 3 months he was working, and he didn't know whether he was going to get paid or not because he hadn't received any money. And so one of the Chilean men that he knew, he kind of told the story to him. I've been working in this place and they still haven't paid me and I don't know what to do. And he couldn't speak English. And so the guy says, let's go and check your bank. And so they went and checked the bank, and they had been paying him for the 3 months, but he didn't know.
Yeah.
And the money was accumulating in the bank. And then how they pay the rent, I don't know, because it was 3 months. And then he said he had all this money. So when he went home, he was walking back home and he saw a car, and then he went and bought it. And that's why we're laughing, because he said, he's got all this money, so he went and bought a car and paid cash for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he said, now I know what to do. Now I'm wising up. I know how they work in New Zealand. Yeah.
How long did it take to learn English?
¿Cuánto te tomó para aprender a hablar inglés?
Por lo menos 6 meses o un año.
Yeah. About 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about with you?
Charlie and I went to work in Hertz Lolly Factory in Moyugu.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and same thing. We didn't know, but we were a bit more younger, so we could take it in a bit more. And so I don't know how Charlie learned, but me, I thought, we don't know what the boss is saying to us, and we had a bit of problems with the boss as well because of their communication. And so I thought, well, I'm going to learn by watching the news, because the news, they say a lot of words, and then I can begin to learn. So I would repeat it. So I spent a lot of time watching the news, not knowing what they were saying, but repeating the words, and then looking in the dictionary. This word says la la la, and then I learned how to spell it as well, because the spell's different from. Yeah, and so slowly I started to teach myself, and then communicating with people. Yeah, and then of course drinking and all of that stuff to go, and
when we first came here to Mum was one of these people that she could see things. She had this ability to see through people. It was almost like psychic and all that. And because I think they've not been able to fight back with words and all that like Mum did, or she could. I think that sort of really frustrated her and kind of, in a way, Mum shut down to the language in a lot of ways. And because she had all of us anyway, and when it came to it, Mum kind of relied on me for a lot of it, because I think I was the one that kind of I think I got when it came to language and all that. I was faster with it, because I remember leaving school, but when I was in school, I didn't learn anything really, because they didn't know what to do with me because of my age and all that kind of thing. So they didn't know what to do with me. And it wasn't until I started working at New Zealand Steel Mills that the manager from our plant, the galvanizing plant, he took an interest in me, and he introduced me to this old guy that he was retired, and he's the one that taught me to read and write.
Good. But it was hard because no English. We used to take the dictionary, and that's how we used to talk to people. But it was quite hard because a lot of people talk behind our back and in front of us.
Make fun of it.
Yeah, make fun of
But there
us.
was to be expected.
Yeah, but we made good friends too. We had good friends in there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we met Perry, eh?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what.
That's where you met Perry.
Perry
Yeah.
was our protector. He protected
Yes.
Hmm.
You used to go to school
Such a good mate.
with Pat,
Yeah.
and that's where they met. And then he used to come to our house every day.
I went to school for 8 months, and then I got asked to leave school because they didn't know what to do with me. Because I was at that age coming out of one sort of a stage and going into another, so nobody had a place for me really, and that was odd. So I had to, from the start, I had to just create my own space really wherever I was because of that really. And then I was there for 8 months, and I didn't really get out of school. I didn't. I made a lot of friends. I made some good friends. Because even going to school for me, it was a hard place to be. It was horrible. Because the students, again, it was like, Pat got a different reception. Pat was just, from the start, he was just the star, the guy that you wanted to be with, and the guy that everybody followed him around and all that. Not me. I was just kind of like on my own, the odd one. So the odd people followed me, kind of thing. Pat was with the popular crowd. Yeah, the cool boys and all that, the jocks and all that kind of types. And Waiuku College was that sort of place too. A lot of cliques and I found my place, but with a bunch of girls, because they became my carers, my guides, sort of my defenders, and my bodyguards really for the last 4 months that I was in school. Yeah, because like I said, I could be in a class and they wouldn't even know whether I was there or not most of the time. You know, it was and then I left school when I was 17. Yeah, he just turned 17, and I was asked to leave school, and I was at home for about a month, and then I started working with Dad.
We lived in Auckland for about a month, and then we moved to Waiuku. We arrived there on a Friday, I think it was. A lot of Chileans came with us to give us a hand to shift. But we arrived in a house that was already furnished. My dad had already had a job. My 2 sisters had already had a job. And then loved the place because it was out in the country, no neighbours, you know. And then on a Monday, these 2 ladies arrived at our place and talking in English. We didn't know what the hell. They put me and Leo in the car. Here's me thinking, fuck, they're going to rape us. No. eat it there. And they take us to the shop, this clothing shop. And I thought, well, I think Leo thought as well, they're going to buy some clothes. We're looking at all these jeans and shirts, you know. Next thing they gave us these brown shorts, brown shirt, this jersey with something logo over here, and some socks up to here, some ugly shoes. They put us back in the car and they take us to school. We were at school. And they were taking us around all the classes and all that. And in each class we had to pull out a map and show where we come from with this little Spanish English dictionary that we were given.
Yeah.
That's how we used to talk. And I remember the first day, you know, everybody looking at us and trying to ask questions, and we didn't understand what the hell was going on. And then at lunchtime, me and Leah, we were in the middle, and all these girls around, all these girls, they wanted to talk to us and ask us questions we didn't know, and they bought us lunch and all that sort of stuff. And I thought school was great. As soon as I arrived at school, you know, how big it was, how, you know, how much room they had, and then at lunchtime you do whatever you want. You can go down the shop or whatever, you know. There was so much freedom, I loved it. I loved it. And all I wanted to do is just learn English, so you communicate. You know, I had four good mates I ended up with. I mean, best mates. And they taught me English, and the dirty words, of course, first. They used to send me to a teacher and go and say this to him. Next thing I'm getting the cane. And the cane was the strangest thing I've ever, like, what the hell? Really? And these dudes send me to say you're a wanker. And they took them a while for me to say, like, you're a wanker. So I did. Ended up in the office, whack. I walked out of there straight home, thinking, what the hell just happened? Told my mum, and yeah, she wasn't happy at all. I remember my mum going up to school and banging the principal's desk, whatever.
When in first arriving, was there any issues with racism or pressure to integrate into New Zealand society or culture?
Papi, cuando recién llegamos nosotros, ¿te acuerdas en Moyuku? Tuvimos algún problema con la raza así, o para integrarlos nosotros a la sociedad aquí en Nueva Zelanda? ¿Tuvimos algún problema?
No, ningún problema. Que después, como ya tenía, yo sabía la plata que tenía que sacar del banco toda la semana,
Yeah.
los cambiamos de casa.
Yeah.
Pero ahí buscamos una casa y los cambiamos.
Yeah.
Y
Yeah.
vivíamos mucho mejor, porque era más grande.
Ya, porque ahí vivíamos en Keith Street, ¿te acordás?
Yeah.
Ese era Keith Street, ¿cierto? Yeah. He said there was no racial problem that we were aware of. I know from my side, whenever we went anywhere, because we stuck together, me and Charlie, and wherever we went, people wanted to hear what the hell we were talking about, and some kids will follow us in that. And we experienced racial trouble with some of the young people. Yeah, they chased us one time in our car, because me and Charlie decided to buy a car, and they chased us down to the beach to Kariatahi, and they were throwing stones at us, and they turned our car over. But we went and told the police, and those guys were sent to court for it. And so there was a what do you call it? There was a judge that, you know. Yeah, so there wasn't a racial thing against us, and yeah, it was judged in a righteous way.
Yeah.
So we got the outcome because they paid us for damages in that. So
So it must
okay.
be really gratifying to come from Argentina, where the family was
Yeah,
like, no, you can't, no
Yeah.
fun, no food, no
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
to
Freedom.
freedom
to freedom.
and justice.
Yes.
Like political, not just political, but just common justice around
Yes.
you and the family.
Yes.
So.
It was
I experienced a whole lot of stuff too. Sort of what it was. It's funny that when I think my first 10 years or 15 years in New Zealand, the refugee thing, it kind of disappeared. It was something that I don't think any of us kind of recognized or kind of told people, because refugees had a different, even to nowadays, being a refugee was different too. I guess it was kind of almost like something that was degrading kind of thing. The attitudes were different, even though sometimes you found people that were really curious about you, but then again you came across those people that just kind of like, well, you know, because you're a refugee, you kind of, you know, you're in the lower sort of class and all that sort of thing. I came across that a lot. I think that's why my voice just got louder and louder, really. And then, yeah, I mean, I learned from there too that as long as I was doing what I was working, that as long as I did my job, that nobody should have the right to sort of tell me anything or scream at me or anything like that. So, yeah. But in a lot of different ways, even within it's funny that within the gay community too, that's when I experienced a lot of racism. And the refugee thing too, it sort of came into it in a lot of ways. I think that's why I ended up kind of hanging out with the people that I did, you know, like Pauline, for instance. I met Pauline, and Pauline, which became a huge part of our family. We met in Wellington the year that I was in Wellington, and we met through other people really, and because of her too, she kind of became my friend, my sister, my protector really, and I could get into places that nobody else could. I saw things, a lot of stuff too through her.
Y a la Raquel no le gustó. Esta weá que estos gringos desgraciados.
Yeah. And mum was very expressive, and I guess we get it from her, all of this very no filters.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is true. It is true. And they gave us, they made a spread of food that we hadn't seen before, and the mama sandwiches, yeah, it was, and cheese and onion, yeah, sandwiches.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a little bit better, but kind of
not quite your
questionable. Yeah, and then ginger nut biscuits. Yeah, and mum tried it, and she went to bite it. It was so hard. She goes, "What are these beep 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 trying to give us? They're gonna kill us in this country." She goes, "I don't like their stuff." And then she's calling them gringos. These gringos, what they think of us? These gringos. Yeah. And so slowly we got used to the food. Yeah. And found our way around it. Yeah.
And I guess it would have been hard to find the same foods that you were used to. You had to go and look for, because I guess in the 70s there was a lot of food New Zealanders wouldn't have eaten.
No.
You know, I can't imagine you would find barley
No.
at the ready, you know, or a lot of food.
Yeah. Poroto.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those things. They were, although it was a part of your food, but you didn't find the raw.
Yeah.
It was all canned.
Canned
Stuff. Yeah. And Mum hated it. She hated some of the things that you guys ate, like boiler.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to us because we had boiler, but our boiler was meat and cazuela and all that, and the more elaborate kind of food. But we got used to it, and Mum cooked as much as she could of our own way, our own culture, and she found a way around it.
Yeah.
What it was hard for them to get used to was the fact that people were so independent of one another. There was no dependency on our next door neighbor. Because what we had from Chile and from Argentina is that if you don't have a piece of bread, go and ask your neighbor, and they will share what they have. And that closeness, and also our culture is very nosy.
Yeah.
And so we will know each other's business and everything, and,
Yeah.
and they created a bit of trouble as well amongst us. But it was a close knit, and we had come from there because we were all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But New Zealand was very private, and we didn't know our neighbor for years. We never knew who was living next door. Mum hated that. She couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
The Nayas come in when we were living in Takanini.
We moved from
And-
Wayugu.
Yeah, we
to
moved
the-
from Wayugu to Takanini.
Yeah.
After being in Wayugu for like 5 years or so, we moved to Takanini. And then Pat, we got a job working at Tisham Potteries. And that's where we met Karen. Then there was a Christmas party, and we were encouraged to invite family. And so we invited our brothers, Pat and Leo. And then they met Karen, and both of them were fighting for Karen, who was going to take her out to dance and so on.
Karen went to go with Leo,
Yeah,
but Leo was looking at. No, we went to a party. Do you remember that we went out? We went to night clubbing. We decided
I
to
think
go
it was after the party,
Yes.
the Christmas party.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then
Yeah.
Karen ended up with Pat, and Pat with Karen. And that's how the Nayas come in, because then he met the whole family. And then that's when they come in. We got to know them because Pat and Karen were getting a little bit serious, and so they wanted Mum and Dad to know the family. Got invited over there for
Yeah.
afternoon tea with Mum Naya.
But there was like an open door there.
Oh yeah.
So we met them. It was just like
They were very
open
friendly
door.
family.
Yeah, yeah. We used to spend a lot of time in there. We used
Yeah.
to stay there overnight too, especially when we used to go out at
Yeah,
night time
yeah.
clubbing. We
So
stayed
then
there.
that's how they came in, and then there was a party at our place, and Karen and Pat decided that they would invite Mark because there could be a possibility that me and Mark would connect. So we did.
I'm glad I met Karen, because I couldn't have met a better family than Nayas. Very good family.
Oh, it's debatable.
Oh man, I've had when I first met Karen, I remember I dropped her off, and she liked the song. What the hell was it? Stomp. Remember that song, Stomp, by the Johnson Brothers or something? Yeah. And I thought, I'll give her a gift, and I bought her a record. There was no record player at her house. And she's like, oh great, my brother will like this. And then second time I dropped her off, we went out to dinner and dropped her off, and then Pete comes out to the front door with his towel, just a towel, and he's going, come in. He's fucking big, man. Oh shit, I don't know. So I went in. Mark was there, Mike, George, Matt was there as well. Fuck, I went in and all the brothers were there, eh? This is Pat, my boyfriend. So next thing, fucking beers come out, and I think I went home about 4 a.m. that day, and Karen had gone to bed. And that was it. After that, I was just hanging around there all the time with the boys. I got on really well straight away with them, man. It was good. Great family. And the mother-in-law, man, I loved that woman. Yeah. And me and the father-in-law, ooh, we didn't get on. Nah, he didn't like me. They didn't like me. And especially after I got Karen pregnant. That was war. Yeah, he was going to hit me one time, Lucky Mark and Pete were there. The old man would have given me a hike. Yeah. And when we bought the house up north, he finally called me son. But my mum, yeah, at the end, she did talk to the old man, I remember, before she died. Well, before they moved out of Auckland. So that was good. That was good. But, yeah. My mum she was a loving woman, man, but she was hard to get on sometimes because she had her set ways. Especially with the in-laws, son-in-laws and all that. They always had to really get to know them, get to know mum, and you know, be careful what you say, what you do, and all that, and tell mum, soften up. And
My dad couldn't help it, eh? All the stories that he's told me. It's like, you just couldn't help yourself, man. No wonder why she didn't like you, some of the stuff you've done. Teasing her and yeah.
But I think she changed her mind when your dad, one day showed up, all fucking nice clothes. And, you know, he cut his hair and all that. And yeah.
Laid the charm on.
Yeah.
With Ian, I think it took a bit longer. I don't know, because he was a Kiwi or because he was just Ian, you know.
And what was the drive to move to Palmerston North? Was it work? Was it?
¿Por qué se cambiaron a Palmerston North? ¿Cuál era la idea de cambiarse para acá?
Cambiar a Palmerston North
Yeah,
por el trabajo.
yeah,
Porque un chileno que había aquí, que ahora está en Estados Unidos,
yeah,
me llevó a trabajar con él, a limpiar el diario,
yeah,
donde hacían los diarios.
yeah.
Y limpiábamos todas las cuestiones que hay en la noche,
Yeah.
y por eso los cambiamos para acá.
Oh, ok. Pero él te ofreció trabajo cuando estaba en Oakland.
Sí.
Te ofreció trabajo para que te vinieras para acá.
Ya.
Y había más chilenos aquí, ¿cierto?
Y había un chileno y dejó la casa que era del gobierno.
Ya.
Y nos llamó y dejó la casa así para que se ocuparan, y nosotros los vinimos ahí.
Ya.
Que estaba cerca de la piscina.
Ah, en Savage Crescent.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Chilean friend was working in the newspaper. He was a cleaner in the newspaper here. And he got in touch with Dad and offered him a job there. And so he came because of the job. And then they left the house, and it was a government house. And then they made an application and got that house. So they moved here. And there were more Chileans here. Also Piney was here.
Yeah.
Which were their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they moved. Friends, work, and housing. They moved here. Yes.
But we moved to Palmerston because, you know, we meet the Mirandas. We meet the Mirandas in Auckland. Yeah, in Auckland we meet them. Because that's how we got to know the Mirandas in here. And the Mirandas were living in here. So then Mom got sick. So the doctors and everything, they told us it was going to be better for her to be in Palmerston because it's drier, the weather is better than what it is in Auckland. So that's how we end up moving to Palmerston North. Yeah. And we started working in here, different jobs when we got to Palmy.
But you stayed in Auckland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did everyone else. It was only you and Romina.
Well, on and off, because I used to live in Auckland because your father.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when everything happened with me and your father, then I moved to Palmerston with you, not with Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how the life started in Palmy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That's it?
I think we know the rest.
Yeah. I'm just gonna ask where his parents come from, because
Oh, yeah,
I think
yeah.
that could be an important. Dime tú de dónde vinieron tu papá,
Yeah.
y los papás de ellos.
La Choli en ese tiempo ya se había casado ya,
Ya,
con el
ya,
David.
ya, ya. Pero tu papá,
tu propio papá, ¿de dónde llegan? ¿De dónde vinieron ellos? ¿Cuál es la raza de tus papás? Eso quiero yo que lo pongan en eso, para que digáis tú que son indios, que tú son mitad y mitad.
No,
Ya.
mi papá no era indio,
Ya,
pero mi mamá tenía del abuelito, de la papá de ella, que era araucano.
ya. ¿Y el papá de ella eran los dos araucanos de mi abuelita o no?
No, el puro abuelito.
Ya, ya. Ya. ¿Y el papá tuyo qué era?
Era chileno nomás que vivía en Concepción,
Ya.
en Constitución. ¿no?
Constitución.
Constitución vivía.
Okay. Dad's father was Chilean, so he would have a mixed blood with Spanish and and the Indian. So he was a Chilean, and he lived in Constitución, in one of the towns far away from Santiago. And then his mother's father was a full Araucano Indian, and so that's where the Araucano blood comes from. So it's all come from the father's lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why Dad's a type of blood. Yeah. So that's our part. On my dad's side, when we talk about that, he's Aravena, Janten, Taiba, because his mother was Janten, Taiba. And so Aravena is from his father.
Yeah.
And so when you mention that, then they know, okay, Taiba is a name from the Araucano tribes, and then so you know
Taiba.
where to trace him, where to
Yeah.
go and find him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
With him being.
¿Tenía algo más que te decir? No. Okay, he's got nothing else to say, but if he remembers something, he will tell you. You can edit into it. Yeah.
What would you say is your parents' legacy that they left you with? Or the biggest learning they left you with? Or
Faithfulness for me.
With
Faithfulness
me
and
was
respect.
to be together, us 5 to be together, my brothers and sister to be together and to help each other and to do stuff that like mom used to do. For example, we still do it now. We get together and we eat something, a Chilean meal. That's one thing mama always used to tell us. I mean, you are here by yourself, so that means you have to be really close together. And we never used to fight or argue or nothing like this when we grew up. We used to get together and it was like, it was a party. Yeah. That's what I remember more.
Yeah, for me it's more faithfulness, because I see it, it's part of my life. And you don't consider even things get hard, and you want to do something, but you don't consider ever walking out or making, or leaving things behind. It's faithfulness. Stick to the plan and do everything you can to make it happen.
so, would you say that's a faith in both your religion and in yourself and your
I think it will
family?
be a mix of the two. Mix of the two. And yeah, it's part of what I believe that God is. But
part of what you are.
But then with mom and dad growing up, I know they had lots of problems and they were marital problems too. But they stuck to each other, and they were faithful to continue, and no matter how hard it got. Mom was like that.
That having the people around is the one thing that we all have in common, is that we grew up with people and we grew up having people around us all the time. It was either cousins or family and all that, and it was like that thing that we were always trying to recreate. Mum and Dad always did. I think that's why the food thing too, it's such an important thing to us, and we still try, and because to come in here, it was just us, so I think the first 10 years were okay, but as we get older, I think that it became more important to us that being together again. I think that's why we all end up here in Palmerston, is because of that. The other thing too is that Mum and Dad always told us to kind of stick together, because again we weren't going to have anybody else, so it was the family. I think that's why no matter what we still sticking together and we talk to each other and all that, because we haven't that family thing, you know, that we try to hold on to, is to recreate that.
You know, I'm planning on being buried here. This country's been good to me. I've seen the whole, I'll say 97% of the country through my job. You know, and I love it. I love it here.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't go anywhere else. And it's good because it's been good to all of us. You know, when we arrived there, I remember my mum and my dad, mainly my mum, saying that it doesn't matter what you're going to be or what you end up after school, as long as you pay your way and contribute to society in a good way. You know, and I always remember that.
And we look forward to you starting that.
Yeah, well, Jacinta rang me last night. She said she was glad. I'm glad you got a job, Pat.
The main part of it, Mum always told her that not to fight between us, to be, you know, we're brothers and sisters, and we had to care for one another. And she used to do the same thing. Like if Sandra was not well, she used to go and see Sandra, used to take half the house to Sandra's place, or used to send her something. It was half the house, but it was not because just it's how Mum was.
Very caring. But you know what? In spite of all the things that we have gone through, like the changes, moving and all of that, it seems like, oh man, it's so hard. It seems hard and confusing. We came to this country and it was like paradise. Our life couldn't have gone better, because when you consider the rest of the family in Chile, they're having hard times, poverty, other things. But we have this life here in New Zealand, and all the children that we've had, you know, our sons and daughters. Man, it's a blessing in itself, just and now the grandkids, all of it. It was God ordained.